Okay, so now this is a muscle testing portion. You've already seen the video. However, if you came to me, this is how I would muscle test. I would have the person stand up and like this, I would say, be strong and push down. And then think of a positive event, push down again. Think of a negative event, and then their arm should go weak. So I wouldn't be bouncing like be positive, and then I'd say be strong, and then take my hand off. I'd keep a slight constant pressure on there, and go through all the different statements. However, for filming purposes, we're going to do it this way. Yeah? So whenever you're muscle testing somebody in person, you ask them to say, I would say, okay, Mimo, just clear your mind and be strong. And then when we're pushing down, push. And when you're muscle testing men, you have to push a little harder than women. It's just the fact, because they want to be the macho thing. So be strong. Think of a positive event. Think of a negative event. So sometimes when you say, I can't think of a negative event, you might have to help them. So think of one that you have in the back of your mind that will always work. And for the people that live in the US, that is the Sandy Hook massacre of 25 and 6-year-olds. Imagine how the parents felt when they're 5 and 6-year-olds. Nobody can hold their strength then. The other thing is, in muscle testing, you might tell them to be strong, and then they're strong, and then say, think of a positive event, and then their arm goes weak. Make it go weak. I get it. And then be strong. Think of a negative event, and their arm goes weak again. So there was virtually no difference between a positive event and a negative event. What's the effectiveness of muscle testing there? What did that tell you? Well, it tells me a lot. It tells me that positive event that they had a negative aspect to it. Like what? Here's an example. I was talking to one of the Department of Education. You can put your hands on just for a bit. One of the Department of Education guys. He was a psychologist for science-based behavioral health. And I'll just use my arm. I was like this, and he was the lead psychologist. So I said, okay, be strong, solid as a rock. And then think of a positive event. His arm went down. Think of a negative event. His arm went down. And I went, well, that positive event, and I didn't even have time to explain. He goes, yeah, it was when I graduated and became a psychologist. It was one of the proudest days of my life. And I says, well, it might have had a negative aspect to it. My mom wasn't there. So even though it was a positive event, it had a negative aspect to it. And then we just helped him clear it so that when he thought of that event, he tested strong. But the best one, and I just want to get this in there, was this big Hawaiian guy. I mean, solid. And his wife was 8.5 months pregnant, standing right next to him. So we had him put his arm out like this, and I said, be strong. And I was actually pushing with all my might, and it didn't budge. Be strong. Okay. Think of a positive event. And his arm fell off his shoulders. Think of a positive event. And of course, we see him look at his wife, and they were having their first child. And then think of a negative event. We couldn't get past that. So we asked him, I says, so what were you thinking of? And we knew exactly what he was thinking of. And he didn't even say it. He couldn't say it. Your wife, and his wife knew, and she was like, wow. And he says, well, when you were thinking about your wife, right? Yes. Are there any concerns? Yeah. For who? Your wife? Yes. For your child? Yes. That's what he was feeling, even though it's the most positive event that he could think of. How am I going to raise it? Is it going to be a boy or girl? Is it going to be... There's so much stuff. So we just helped him clear it so that when he thought about his child and his wife, the birth of their first child, he was sending positive vibrations. That's how effective muscle testing can be, just to identify the issues and things. Okay, so now that's how I would do it if you're in person, but you're not in person. So how do you do it? This way, right? So we're going to just use Mimo as the subject, and we're going to Have them press down. So just think about being strong. Be strong. Can you feel the strength? Think of a positive event in your life. Good? Okay, so now think about the Sandy Hook parents and their 5 and 6 year olds getting murdered. There. That's as easy as it gets. Now you can do this one, and you can do this one, and you can do this way, but this is a major muscle group that is really easy for you to validate one way or another. So that's it for muscle testing. We're moving on to the next area in the foundation.